Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 2 for this news bulletin today, Friday, November 16th, 2012. Alright, so we left off with this article over here about Jordan, and we'll continue here, and then like I said, we'll take it home here with some local news. Kurdistan Alliance, we have the right to form a military force. So like I said, Kurdistan oil state is rising. And it says here that the region has the right to form a military force in the Kirkuk province because it is covered by Article 140 of the disputed areas. And just some more news on Mali. Just yesterday I reported on AFRICOM considering supporting this Mali invasion. Then you have the European Union group, an EU group, endorsing training mission for Mali. So training. The European mission to train Mali or Malian forces struggling against Islamist fighters. So there's also training going on in the United States and Iraq for police officers. The Metro Police, this is Tennessee Police, I believe, provides training for Iraqi police officers. They were one of 24 American law enforcement agencies to provide leadership, tactical, and field training to Iraqi police officers. A brief background on it, the program is supported by a grant from the Department of State Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement. It says the INL is administrating the transition of the education and training mission from the U.S. military to the State Department, which focuses on building and the rule of law. Right? Like Bush says, not the law of the jungle. Right? Their law. It's $200 million wasted on Iraqi police training program from July 30th, 2012. The auditors have concluded that more than $200 million was wasted on a program to train Iraqi police that Baghdad says and neither needed nor wanted. And the same things happen with China too. China studies U.S. to revamp police force. China is spending more than ever before in an attempt to upgrade its domestic police force, but it may also be seeking to change its approach to law enforcement by looking to the United States for ideas, because we know in America we have a lot of trust of our fraternal order of police. U.S. law enforcement officials and experts who have advised China's police force say Beijing is looking to update an antiquated system plagued by outdated crime reporting methods. It says it's more than just hiring somebody off the street and putting a uniform on them. It's a costume. And turning them loose in a neighborhood and saying, defend the party, right? Well, that's what they do in the U.S., right? Defend your pension, defend your job, write those tickets on the 30th of the month. Defend the fraternal order. That's why most of them they're never responsible for their actions. SWAT team fires semi-automatic weapons at unarmed teenage girl. Members of a SWAT team opened fire on an unarmed teenage girl this week when police officers outside of Washington, D.C. attempted to serve an early morning search warrant. Pre-dawn raid. Those are nice. The 18-year-old is recovering from flesh wounds following Thursday morning's events in District Heights, Maryland. She was asleep in her bedroom at her house when the 15 FBI SWAT agents stormed the house with guns drawn. I'm shouting, nobody is armed, nobody has a gun. And then all of a sudden I heard, she's got a gun. And they just opened fire. Emery Huffley, Maisha's father, tells local news. So they said that she didn't have a gun, and the authorities allegedly saw something in their minds and had enough reason to unleash a barrage of bullets. Yeah, it's called video games and too much television, and too much money thrown at them, and too much people telling them. You know, I was thinking about this recently, about wherever they go, the government's in it, it's always about police and fire. You gotta have police to enforce the law, and you gotta have fire. You know, it's just like, and then we're supposed to, like, you know, suck their schlongs, basically. I don't know a better way to put it. And it's like, well, dude, it's not like we had a choice. We didn't. These guys aren't elected, and we have to pay for them. So it's like there's no competition. Why isn't there competing fire departments? Why isn't there competing police departments, you know, like private ones? Why aren't they accountable for their actions? Philly officer charged for punching woman. Jonathan Hosey accused of misdemeanor assault. So the Philadelphia police lieutenant who got fired for punching a woman at a festival was charged today with simple assault, a misdemeanor. So pretty interesting, huh? Williams says police were responding to a chaotic situation, but the use of force was unnecessary. So it's interesting, too, because you think of 9/11 responders, and it's just going back to that, the point I was trying to make with fire, and that firemen, is like, look what happened to those 9/11 responders. They got cancer. They were treated. Went through an FBI screening list for terrorists, just so they can file for their compensation for going in there heroically and doing all that stuff, saving those people and putting their own lives at risk. And they ended up getting shit on by their own government. So see, that's why I'm talking about it. There's no responsibility for the government to take care of their people that actually go out there and do these things. War in Afghanistan. This is the best example. Is the vets, the troops, right? They don't ask questions. They follow orders. That's what they're supposed to do, And it's up to people in the United States to tell them, basically, this is wrong. War in Afghanistan has failed and is not worth the life of one more soldier, says this Paddy Ashdown. It's now crystal clear that we have lost in Afghanistan. I'm not really sure if they lost. Like I said, it's a beachhead, right? And they got the resources there locked down, the drug trade and all that. It's a good location strategically for defense against the East, mostly China and Russia. So they haven't exactly lost. But the troops have, and Americans who believe that what they were doing there and the mission being moral, they lost as well. Most deaths are not by the enemy in the front of our troops, but by the enemy among them. Yeah. Does, what do they call them? Green on blue, whatever. Send street thugs to fight wars. So this is going to be their answer. It says here, a Labour MP has blamed nastier violence on the streets on the fact that those who commit such crimes are not being called by being sent to foreign wars. He says that the reason for all these people committing these violent crimes is not because of the media. It's not because we live in a demonic, totally engineered society that every day that passes each little strand of fabric is being unwoven of our, in our society by these engineers. It's not, it's not that. It's that these people aren't being sent off to fight these huge wars to defend the empire and these petrodollars or whatever it is. I can't believe this. The reality is that we are not calling the young anymore. We are not sending them off to a foreign battlefield to kill other people anymore, and that is why they are on our streets. So, wow. How about good parents and good family structure there, buddy? That's where it all starts. Australia's penal but that's like I mentioned before. Society as a whole is a reflection of the family, the individual family unit. And the government is what? Something that impacts society. So society is a reflection of the government, and society is a reflection of the family. And unfortunately, when the government is all up in your family's business, and they're basically telling you what to do, how to raise your children, well, this is what you're going to get when they're bypassing all of that. You get nothing but programming and brainwashing coming mostly through entertainment. And, no productivity. I mean, there's not much to look forward to as far as the recent future goes. I'm optimistic about the long-term future, but in the short term, I'm pessimistic because it doesn't look too good if you have your eyes open, as far as jobs and that go. So, this guy's talking about sending street thugs to fight wars, and this is from Australia. But it's interesting because Australia was originally a penal colony. Yeah, it says here New South Wales and Australia was founded by the British as a penal colony in 1788, and over the next 80 years, more than 160,000 convicts were transported to Australia from England, Ireland, Scotland, and it also actually, United States, I didn't know this, but there was actually a lot of people that were indentured servants and prisoners. And a lot of people don't know that when they talk about the blacks from West Africa being shipped over. There's a lot of whites and Europeans that were slaves and prisoners. U.S. troops anger Okinawa legislators. The Japanese in Okinawa have passed a resolution protesting alleged assaults by U.S. troops and calling for reduction of the number of servicemen and bases on the island. I don't know how much is going to happen because they're going to have a presence there. U.S. has to have a presence in Japan because the Japanese people, I think just deep down, they don't hate us. They just despise us being over there, basically dominating them, because we won the war and stuff like that. And our cultures are just totally dissimilar. They're unlike each other, so they can't wait for us to get out of there. But unfortunately, I think the Rothschilds have a big wedge in there in Japan. That's the weirdness about it. They're staunchly anti-West, and yet the Rothschilds have their tentacles sunk into Japan. I think the families and the mafias out in Japan have at least enough control to be able to maintain their culture, which is a threat, I think, to the West and them. United Airlines sued for leaving paralyzed Marine vet soaked in urine. Disabled vet was pushed from his wheelchair and soaked in his own urine after United Airlines employee refused to help the man to his seat on the plane. The retired Marine had filed a lawsuit. So, yeah, they just cared about rules and orders and barking orders on them planes, the stewardess. Army suicides for 2012 surpassed last year's numbers. 10 months into 2012, the number of suspected suicides by active duty soldiers has surpassed last year's total, even as the Pentagon struggles to stem the persistent problem. So, like I said before, right, it stems from society. What's the mission? Is it a moral mission, you know? So they're looking to nasal sprays to, you know, for depression. You're going to spray a little nasal spray in their nose, almost like an asthma, as a person with asthma does, to curb depression. Also, they have suicide prevention, a really big program now. Like I said, what happened? One of the guys that had no problems, an Army sergeant, basically killed himself. He was actually playing the role of a concerned friend. After that, went into his truck and killed himself. So again, this is mind control. This is what they do. They unleash, they plant the seeds of programming, and then later, you know, it actually works. It works the opposite of what they say they're going to do. You know, that's why it's kind of part of that definition of mind control. Hey, at least that turd bag in Australia, the congressman, whatever, maybe he'd be happy because this is, you know, this is part of the Culling, right? But yeah, they'll make a big political melee about how to help these troops when all they can do is just look at what the hell they're doing, having them do, right? Because most of these politicians are cowards and stuff like that. They're not going to actually go and do anything themselves. Vets killed in train crash push wives to safety. 4 servicemen were killed in a Texas accident. So it's pretty crazy down in Texas. They were actually having like a veterans parade or something like that. And it goes on there and says they pushed their wives to safety, were unable to escape themselves as the train bore down on a parade float at a crossing. It goes on, it says 16 other people were injured in the crash. One's in critical condition. The authorities say the crossing gate and lights appeared to be working. It says the float was behind another truck at the crossing and couldn't move out of the way. So I've mentioned this before, how I don't like trains. I kind of despise them. I mean, I know they're good for transporting goods and all that around. That's great. But they're so invasive, and they're just like everything else with all the complexes, whether it's health complex, the dairy complex, the beef complex, you know, it's very dictatorial. It's almost like it's basically an extension of the government itself. They just sit there. They take up your time. I've already gone through all this. You have to sit there and wait on them. And they're making profits, and they're just making you sit there while you're coming back from work, going to work, you're on your own time, you're off time, and they're consuming your time, which is the most invaluable source of life, in life, right, is your time. And they sit there, and they detain you, basically. And you can't do anything about it. You don't get any compensation from them. And, of course, they can beat their horns. I think there's something very satanic about those damn horns. They're so loud when they come through, and they always come through in the middle of the night, blaring their horns. Everybody knows that they're there, you know, whatever, if it's lights or something like that. You know, they don't need to be blaring their horns like that, coming through, disrupting the peace. But they do. That's like the military with their bombs shaped like phalluses, like George Carlin was saying, you know. You know, that's telling you and the whole town, I'm coming through. I got a big horn and a big train. You better get out of my way or you're going to get crushed. And like the movie Into the Wild, you know, they're fascists, man, big time, you know. Oh boy, you know, was just on there homeless, trying to, you know, just not bothering anybody. It's an empty cart, and it's all about American spirit, right? And well, no, actually, he got drug off the train and got the shit beat out of him. So now I know that, you know, those homeless guys doing drugs and all that crazy stuff in the trains, and they don't want that and stuff like that for liability. But you know, some of them just take it a little too far. So I'm going to leave it off here, and when we return, we'll return with Ron Paul's message on secession. So I'll give my thoughts on that. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.